So good morning, and this is the official start of the session. So if this is the first time you are in Net Solutions, welcome. I'm Joseph Jude. I am CTO in Net Solutions. Thanks, Chacha, for this arranging this conference and making me a keynote speaker in this. So I appreciate it, and thank you all for coming. So the way I have organized this is, let's understand what is digital. So where are we? Which era we are in? What's the progress that has happened so far? What has led us to where we are today? And what's the kind of skill set that would be needed to try, not just to survive, but to thrive in a digital era? As Jatsi said, it's extremely difficult to build companies in tier 2 cities, but because of digital, you can build a startup. There are startups that are built in Chandigarh, in Tri-City areas, in the tier 2 cities like Jaipur and Mysore, Chandigarh, tier 2 cities, and you can reach a global scale. That's purely because we are in a digital era. So we'll talk about what's digital era and what the skill set that you need to have and everything. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. You can also ask after the session. Or you can, as I said, you can post it on Twitter and I will try to answer that as well. So this was a historic moment, in my opinion, where we started off with the revolution in software industry. 1969, NASA launched Apollo 11 to land a man on the moon. That was the first, huge exercise. It was not just about space. It eventually led to quite a few of use cases, quite a few of benefits. So anything that was in NASA, they become commercialized, they become democratized, and it came into the common usage. Whether it is television, whether it is communication, firefighter suits, all of those things. So it started out in NASA, but then it went into military, and then subsequently for all our usages, we started using them. Software and computer in general, computing, is one such use case that came from that. This is the guidance computer that was on Apollo 11. In fact, at some point in time when the module was landing on the moon, the guidance computer took control. Probably that was the early signs of Tesla, autonomous vehicle. So it took control and it landed the module on the moon. It took control of that. So it was a tiny computer when you are thinking from today's perspective. When you look back, it's a tiny computer. 64K is all that it had. It's a very small computer in that particular sense. But that achieved its objective, what it was built for. And Jackson talked about a peculiar problem that we are all facing all over, women in tech. But surprisingly, it was a woman who wrote the software for the Apollo 11, the guidance computer. I don't know what happened from then to now, but world over, somehow women has not been flourishing in tech. I don't know why. I've been thinking about it. I don't know why. But surprisingly, it was the woman who wrote the software that landed the man on the moon, right? So from there to here, it's a bit surprised, but we didn't talk, Jashid and I didn't talk prior to the session about this, but this is a nice coincidence. So as I said, it was Margaret Hamilton who wrote the software that landed man on the moon. Now what I said, that led to certain things. The technology that was used for landing man on the moon, that got commercialized, that came into military, that came into healthcare, that came into the normal common usage. Then there was an era where software was eating the world. Every single domain that you can talk about, whether it is healthcare, whether it is finance, whether it is military that I talked about, whether it is insurance, any of those domains, software started coming into existence in each of those fields. Anything that was done manually, there was computers, there was software, there were MIS systems that were running. So software started eating the world. Mark Anderson, he's a popular VC, venture capitalist, but prior to that he started a company. and he coined this particular thing, phrase called software is eating the world. And that was a very good observation, that was a powerful insight. A lot of people hatched onto it, and it led to things like Apple, Microsoft, and so many other startups, and even in India. It led to the era where we talk about software is eating the world. And I'm fast forwarding a bit, like I don't want to talk about every single progress. From that moment of launching something, launching a man on the moon, to this particular one, there has been quite a few progress. Now this was another moment where the computing world changed. Now in what way it changed? This is 1,000 times powerful than the guidance computer on Apollo 11. This machine that's in your pocket is 1,000 times, whether it is in computing power, whether it is in memory, it is 1,000 times much better than the module, the guidance computer that launched man on the moon. The question is, what are you doing with that? Right? With 64K, we were able to launch man on the moon with 1,000 times much powerful. All that we are doing is we take a photograph of our breakfast and we put it on Instagram and Facebook. Right? So think for a moment, what are you doing with such a powerful computer on your pocket? We should be able to do much more than just posting, this is what I ate for breakfast. Anyway, but world over, there has been a progress with such a heavy compute, mobile compute, I would say. So from there, where we have come to digital. So let's take a moment to understand what's digital. So as I said, there was a guidance computer on the module, but then we have 1,000 times powerful computer on our pocket. So that's this device. So any of the devices now we can have that kind of a powerful, mobile, powerful computers, whether in terms of computing or in terms of storages. Now, for a very long time, it was stationary. It could only be stationary, but then we started moving. So when you move, so combine that with people, like us, I'm carrying my mobile with me, and so when people and devices interact, so that's where the human-machine interaction happens. This is one of the earliest stuff that came, cockpits, where there was a human and machine interaction, iPads, iPhones, healthcare machines. So that's the first thing that happened. So there's a combination of people interacting with machines. It's not just machine alone and people alone. Machine and people interaction started happening. So that led to a few things. Now, then that device, when it meets spaces, so that's where cyber physical system comes in. That's what is happening now. So I'm going to talk about it a little later. People and spaces. Again, the computing power is there. It's stationary. So like devices, it's not mobile. It's stationary. So that's where your smart homes, smart appliances comes into picture. So at your home, you have a computing device. So it's a space, it's a place. And what can you do? Probably you can control your home, lighting, appliances, maybe you can cook. There are refrigerators, which are smart refrigerators, which can order food when certain things goes down. So all of those things are happening. Now, space to device, those are the things that are happening now. It is still in nascent stage, primitive stage, where we are talking about autonomous vehicles. So there's a device, so the car is moving, and because of the device, the computing device, as the environment changes, it adapts itself to it. Now, in an autonomous vehicle, what we are talking about, it adapts the speed to the changing environment, but it could be smart grid, where it computes the electricity according to what's the usage pattern. So it can adapt also. Now, if all of these things combine, think about what's the benefit that we are going to get. I'll talk about it as we go along. When we are talking about digital, all the three things have to mix and have to create a new business model. There is absolutely no point, okay, like as I said, if you give me a highly powerful computer, all that I would do is take a picture and post it on Instagram, right? Is there a business model for me? There's no business model. Do I earn anything? No, I don't earn anything. So there has to be a business model, there has to be a benefit, there has to be some form of an advantage. Only then it becomes beneficial to the common man, and that's when we call, okay, that's an era, that's an age that we are in. So what are the things that are powering digital? What are the factors that are powering digital? One is speed. Today, when I was studying in college, if I wanted to learn about computer graphics, I had to go into the library. I'll ask the librarian. He'll probably have a few books, and if they don't have a books, I get to order it. Maybe I need to wait for a month. Today, I can go into Google. Probably in a couple of seconds, I have all the information that I need. The speed with which I can access things. The speed with which it changes also is enormous. In our own lifetime, we have seen mobile company Nokia come up as a startup, flourish. At least the people of my age, all of them, our first phones were Nokia phones. It flourished and then it went down. The speed with which the things change. Today, G is still there. It's 100 years old. But then Nokia came up and down, right? So the speed with which things change is enormous. So we should be like, if you want to build a value for yourself, for the companies, for the society, you should know that things are going to change very fast. So how are you going to embrace that particular change and create value for yourself and your company and your society? Adjacency. Again, if I wanted to buy a book or if I want to buy something, I'll ask around. I will visit a couple of shops. I'll ask for what are the features in each of the models, and probably it will take me at least about a week or a month to buy something. When I want to buy a mobile phone for my wife, I asked around. They said Moto. I went into Amazon. Probably in an hour I ordered. In another 3 days I had the phone with me. Very fast. Adjacent, right? Today, if I want to connect with somebody, you can tweet to your PM, Narendra Modi. Adjacent. He seems very close to you, right? Earlier, at my age, when I was young, we couldn't even think about that. Forget about whether I can do it or not. I couldn't even think about that. Today, it is all adjacent, very common. And there are people sometimes these celebrities and the powerful people, they also reply back, right? You can see in so many of the Twitter handles followed by PM Narendra Modi. So that's powerful stuff, right? Sometimes you can reply to the Apple chairman about some of the problems, and he replies back. In India, probably Anand Mahindra is some CEO who is very popularly using Twitter. You can tweet something about the Mahindra, either the vehicles or something. He will reply back. Adjacency, very close, as if you know him, he knows you for well. That's digital. The question is, how are you using it? How are you going to use it? How are you going to thrive in that particular area, especially for students? This is where it is going to be. How are you going to use it? You should ask the particular question. We'll talk about how we can use it. Say, for example, I'm going to Pizza Hut, and I'm a non-vegetarian, and you are a vegetarian. We go there, and we both see, and throughout our stay in that Pizza Hut, maybe an hour or so, we both see the same setting, right? There's no change. You might like a red color, I might like a blue color, but still, Pizza Hut, the place, doesn't change. But you go to Amazon.com, you like novels, I like psychology books, and yeah, probably when I visit there at first, we both see the same settings, but over the period when you browse, all the books that are recommended to you, all the movies that are recommended to you are about novels, and what are recommended to me are about psychology stuff. Adaptability. The system can adapt itself quickly, personalization. It can quickly adapt itself to the person who is visiting. In a physical system, you couldn't do that. I'm sure so many of you will be familiar with Stack Overflow. How many of you used Stack Overflow? I'm sure everybody, right? I have used it. When I go to Stack Overflow, probably I will see things about Python and Go language, because that is what I keep searching. Probably when you visit, it is about Node.js and something else which you have searched for. It adapts, the system adapts to you. It's not the same for everybody. The adaptability is one key characteristic of a digital. Again, like you have to think about how you can use it for yourself, how you can build systems that adapts. Again, precision. Earlier, if you're talking about marketing, earlier what used to happen is you will send out a blast to everybody. Today you can segment. There's a whole big argument that's going on whether it is right or wrong. I mean, you would have known about Facebook episode that's been happening, and people are saying Trump was able to micro-target. Not even targeting, micro-target. That's possible today. So if I want to reach all the developers in the world, it's possible for me to do it. Whether I use it or not is a secondary question, but it is possible for me today to find out or reach out to all the developers who are 5 years inexperienced in Ionic. Say for example, as he said, I wrote a book on Ionic, and I want to reach out to all developers who are about 4 years experience, who are in some mobile form, they are using some mobile development. It's possible for me to do it. That's digital. And each of them is powering each other. There is no one single factor. It is not just one. I mean, when everything combines together, that makes a case for a huge thing. So those are the things that are happening that's powering digital. Now, let's talk about, as I said, software, it started off and then it's been moving. When I was young, this is where I'm talking about at least about 30 years back, is that we all started off as a cost center. Software was a cost center. We will have a MIS group in any department. Let's say, for example, it is food or anything. Apollo Hospital, I worked for a while. We were cost center. You are a necessary evil. You could bring out reports, but all that they would be interested in is putting in some data and getting some reports. That's all they were interested in. You were not impacting the profit materially. There was not much of a, software, okay, I can get fancy reports. That's all they thought about. They didn't think about how I can improve my business. That's where we started. But as we went along in the time and the digitalness progressed, we came into a world where software is eating the world, as Mark Anderson said. So the software and the domains, healthcare, finance, insurance, they started merging. They started seeing, oh, the software can give me much more than reports. So they started developing systems. They started developing software systems for fintech. Finacle is one developed by Infosys, right? So those things happened. Now today, as we speak, because of digital, every company is a software company. There is no automotive company. Ford was an automotive company. Tesla is not an automotive company. Tesla is a software company, correct? Tesla is a software company. There is no hospitality industry. Airbnb is not a hospitality company. It's a software company. Uber is not a taxi company. It is a software company. Every company that we are talking about is a software company. That's digital. Go back to that triangle that I talked about. The space, people, and the devices, when they interact, it becomes digital. So, Oyo Rooms is not in the hospitality industry. It is a software company. That's where it is coming. So the convergence. So the software, it is almost like, every company is a software company, and probably it will be run by a software company, a software person. And we are talking about Google's and Microsoft's and Apple's talking about new innovations in diverse areas than just software. Today, I wake up, I get my news from Twitter, not from Tribune. Twitter is no more a news. Twitter is not a news company; it's a software company. So you can think how much it has come in all those ways. Earlier we used to have phones and telegrams. Today we use WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is not a telecommunication company; it's a software company. So every field that you can think of, it is all a software company. Now tomorrow you are going to be, coming in, over your students, you're all going to come in. So you're going to work in these diverse fields, and all of them are software companies. Yeah, it is going to be in a particular domain. So what skill set would be needed for you? What would be the requirement? What would be the business requirement? What they will expect from you? So when we were cost center, what was expected out of us was efficiency. Can you do it faster? Can you do it cheaper? Was the question that was asked. So if I would say, this report will take me 5 days to do it, he will say, can you add one more person and do it in 2 days? And probably I would do it. So what was requested of me was efficiency. Can you cut cost? Can you cut time? Was all the question that was asked. Unfortunately, even today we asked that particular question, but that's primarily the business mindset. Can you cut things? Efficiency is what matters. But then, when every company is a software company, you as a software developer, they don't expect you to cut cost, they expect you to add value for their business. Right? Can I bring in more? So what do they talk about? Conversion. How can you bring more visitors to Airbnb? He is not asking you how can you cut cost. He is asking you how can you bring more customers to Airbnb. In any of those things, let's say for example we're talking about Twitter, it's again a news agency now. If you take that, he doesn't talk about how do I cut cost, he talks about how can I bring more users into more engagement into the platform. Are you ready for it? So we are not talking about cutting cost at the time, we are talking about adding value. So what would be needed? Can you think of what would be needed? Let's take a moment pause. If I am moving away from efficiency, which is what we are talking about, cutting cost and cutting time, and if I had to add value, what do you think should be the change in our skill set? I'm assuming all of you are somewhere related to software or in computers in general. Okay, what should be the change in our value that we need to have? What skill set should we have?
Scalability.
I'm sorry, scalability. Okay.
Soft skills.
Perfect. Soft skills.
Domain knowledge.
Absolutely. Domain knowledge. Yeah. Somebody said that adaptability. Yes.
Continuous learning.
Absolutely, continuous learning. That's why you are here. Thank you. Anyone else? Speed. Yeah. So if the system is going to have those characteristics, speed, scalability, adaptability, the person who is going to do that also should have in that particular fashion. Those characteristics should be. Right? I view the quicker to learn is something like adjacency that I see. Scalability, can you learn things faster? So those are the things that we are going to have. So this is a skill set change. When we are talking about efficiency, can you do it faster? Can you do it cheaper? There were I-shaped experts. I was a programmer for Java. Programmer in Java for 20 years. I know everything about Java, whether it is with markup languages or JSPs, you name anything. But I can't come and talk to a business owner. I can't understand their domain. I will say somebody else have to come in and manage his expectation and my expectation. I can't understand him. He can't understand me, right? In general, which I have observed in software industry is they can talk to the machine, they can't talk to humans. Because we are all experts in that particular silo, whatever that silo was. It could be PeopleSoft, it could be Magento, it could be Java, it could be Python, whatever that is, we were silo experts. So to manage us, there has to be a generalist managers. They will come in, they don't know anything about technology. So you will say, they will say, can you build a CMS system? So you will go back and say it will take you, 6 months to do it, let's say for example. They will come back and say, can I add 2 more developers and will it be off? That's the manager question. They won't understand what are the nuances that are there because they were generalists. They don't know any specific knowledge, but they were generalists. And then you will sit here and laugh at him. This is not possible. You can't add 2 people and bring it the cost by half, right? was always the tug of war that was there. Yeah, I mean, we used to have different jokes, but I can't make it up in the public forum. Yes. So, if you don't know what the joke is, you can ask me later. Many of you might already know. So this is where we were. Silo experts and generalists who didn't understand anything about the domain. Probably they didn't understand anything about the software as well. All that they were doing is project management, that's all, nothing else. And you can ask them to manage a civil project, and you can ask them to manage a software project, and you can ask them to manage a healthcare rolling out project. They'll be happy to do it, because that's all they would know. But from there, now if we have to create value, now we need to become different. Like as somebody else said, domain knowledge and all the other things. So we need to be expert in a primary skill. So I'm not talking about, jack of all trades and master of none. I'm talking about you are an expert in something. So that's why I'm calling it as an inverted T. You are an expert in something, Java, whatever it is. Your software domain, you can build things. But then you have enough of complementary skills. As Jachi said, soft skills. So for a very long time, I couldn't stand up in a public forum like this and talk because I could talk to computers, I couldn't talk to humans. But today, I am forced to change because I want to be here, not here. I want to be I don't want to be the guy who is cutting cost. I want to be the guy who is adding value. So I have to do that. So I am an expert in something, but what are the complementary skills that I could add? So you have to think about what are the complementary skills that you could add. Like we talked about domain knowledge, soft skills. So what are the complementary skills that you could add to your portfolio? So you could be, you have to be an expert in something. I'm not talking about shallow knowledge, I'm talking about deep knowledge. That's why it is an inverted T. So here it could be shallow if you want, but at least one thing you should be an expert, right? Maybe it is not a good idea to learn business from cartoonist, but Scott Adams is a very popular both a cartoonist as well as a businessman. So there are one or two things that you can learn from cartoonist as well. So Scott Adams says this. So you need to have a primary skill, you need to have a secondary skill, you need to have a public speaking. That's why I'm here. Jashid is here, and so many of the other fellow speakers who are going to be here. Public speaking is an absolute must if you need to create value. Now, don't think of it as just as public speaking. It benefits quite a lot in you. As I started off, launching a rocket did not only benefit space area, but it benefited so many other industries. Likewise, in public speaking, if you do that, it benefits in multiple different ways to you and to the other community as well, especially to you. It brings you confidence, it gives you structured thinking, and so many and so forth. But then, if you are not an expert, you cannot stand in front of people and talk. Because they are going to ask questions and they are going to rip you apart. Right? Yeah, like now, maybe some of the politicians and consultants can get away with speaking nonsense, but in general, conference like this, if I am not an expert in what I am talking about, you will find it out quickly. There might be things that I don't know, but at least what I am speaking, I should know what I am talking about. Right? So it builds, it's a positive cycle that happens. So what should be the primary and a secondary skill set for a development community? For marketing it could be different, for legal it could be different, for healthcare it could be different, but for for developers, what's that primary and secondary that it could be? One roadmap that I'm putting, it's for my own, that I have followed, and I'm prescribing for you also. By the way, if you want this slides, you can ping me and I will send it to you. I'll upload it, slide share also. Maybe Jashid can know all the email IDs and he can send it across.
We'll send those links for every single.
Yeah. So it can happen, but you can still take notes. There's nothing wrong in taking notes. It's just said that you can do it. As I said, this is a developer roadmap that I followed, and I'm still following. I've not mastered it. I'm still following it, and I have. This is what I recommend for the others also, all my fellow juniors and my teammates and everybody. So as I said, there are TBR, inverted T, a base, a primary. This is what that primary is for a developer. Again, as I said, for marketers and legal, it will be different. For developers, this is what it is. We are all building things. We are builders, we are creators. So we should have the tool set to build things. So, languages. You should know at least one interpreted language and a compiled language because they are different. The way that they work, what they bring to the table is different. So, say for example, Python and C and Python and Golang are two different stuff, and what do they bring? You should know at least one of each. Again, we are talking about web, DB, and mobile. Again, the way that you design them, the way you build them is different. You should know at least one in each. Maybe the way that I look at it is, I know, Ionic is one that you talked about. I'm learning React Native and Postgres SQL and Python and Go language on the web. Maybe yours is different. I also know Node.js, but then yours is different. But do you know at least one in that? So that when they are talking about scale, the scaling a mobile application is different from scaling a web application. Can you think about that? Now, when you're talking about adjacency, all the three come together. Can you think that particular fashion? The challenges of scaling a DB versus a mobile application, they are not the same. They are very different. So that's the value that you bring in. If you know all of those things, you need to know all of those things. Only then you will be able to bring that in. One thing that I said, security is not taken off well, but then going forward, it is going to be pretty important, very, very important. Because when devices are going to operate autonomously, they can be hacked as well, and you wouldn't even know that it is hacked, right? So when you are building systems, security is absolutely important. Today what we are doing is, we are learning Hello World, and we call ourselves experts in Java. But can you build a system which is secure? At least to the security as you know it. Today we don't even bother. When we are gathering requirements, when we are talking to our users, when we are sitting down to write code, security is not even in our mind. But in digital, security is going to be absolutely important. It's going to be paramount. Performance, speed and scale. One of the factors that I talked about is speed and scale. If it has to be fast, if it has to scale, is your system performant? Right? So, do you know about that? There are two other things in the primary itself, is that, okay, you know languages, you can build things, but can you design things well? Do you know the algorithms specific to, say for example, financial industry? If you're talking about machine learning, do you know the models for financial industry, or for, let's say for example, social media, or for content industry? Do you know those algorithms? You need to know them. Similarly, if you're talking about scale, do you know to have telemetry in your application so that you get the errors much before than before a user reports to you? Can you tune the application? Do you know how to tune the application? So those things becomes important. That's your primary skill set. DevOps is another one. Can you launch a container in Azure and send your application to Azure and automatically launch another, whenever that needs to be a scale, can you launch another instance automatically? Can you do that? Those becomes your primary skill set. This is absolute must for every developer. You should have it. And by the way, if you're going to interview at Net Solutions, I'm going to ask you all of these things. So you already know all the questions you can expect. So this becomes absolute must for every developer. Now, as I said, so there's a primary and there's a secondary, right? Now, these are secondary ones. Still in developers age, but these are secondary ones. There are trends all the time. Like when there's a blockchain, you're going to hear about blockchain here. I don't know whether we have any session on machine learning, but Azure supports machine learning. There's a cognitive services. Yesterday I was going through one Twitter bot. What it does is you tweet something, it will compare to all the images in Wikipedia, and it uses Microsoft machine learning model. It compares to all the images in Wikipedia, and it sends information, tweets information about that particular image. you might think that's really funny, but then think about it is also coming in. Now I'm using a application Lookup. What it does is you take a picture of something, it will immediately recognize what that is, it will give a word, and it will tell you how to pronounce that particular word. That's happening using machine learning, right? So things like that. So what are the trends? These trends change, often. As I said, the speed with which things change is awesome. So today we are talking about machine learning, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, and everything. I'm sure in 2 years down the line it will be different. But what are the trends that you can jump into? Because those are the things that are going to set you apart. Those are the things that are going to make you create value very quickly. Earlier, when we were developing programs, if I had to scale even to 50 users, it was tremendously painful. Today, I can go on to Azure or something equivalent and spin up one image, and then I'm done, right? But do you know about it? If you don't know what will happen, the domain is going to ask, and then you are going to say, no, it can't be done. I mean, it can't be scaled to 50, it can't be scaled to 50,000 users, it can't be scaled to 500,000 users. Your company suffers. Do you know about them? Right? Those becomes important for you. Now, everything you cannot build from scratch. So you need to hook up onto some platforms. Now, again, the platforms will differ. That's why I say it as a secondary. The platforms will differ for the domain that you are in. Say, for example, you are in early stage e-commerce system. Probably Magento is the package that you will use. Maybe otherwise you will use SAP. Maybe you will use PeopleSoft. Maybe you will use Force.com. But what are the platform that is important for you? That will depend on the domain that you are going to work. So that's important. That's secondary, but then that's important. What's the platform that you can use? So that, as I said, speed is one criteria for digital companies. So which means from the idea of the concept, again, adjacency also plays a role here, from the idea of the concept to launching it to multiple people, how fast you can do it. You can't always code everything from scratch. So can you use any existing tools? Maybe Django will help you. Instead of coding everything from scratch from Python, maybe Django will help you to launch a CMS for you. Maybe Magento will help you instead of coding every e-commerce from scratch, maybe that will help you. That's secondary, right? Now, it's all fine. You know about DevOps, you know how to spin up containers in Azure, you know about blockchain. Business people, businessmen are only interested what that will do to solve my problem. Which I keep on saying, and those who are grown up long in software industry fall into this particular temptation. I hope, you students will not. The customers do not want 4-inch drill. They want a 4-inch hole. Huge difference, right? When we talk to the customers, what we do is that, do you want a 2-inch wire or 20-inch wire? Do you want the plug to work in European socket as well as an Indian socket? He doesn't care about any of those things. In the digital world, he doesn't care about any of those things. Can you give me a 4-inch hole? Go figure out. Go figure out whatever you need to do. So you go and say, oh, that's a great technology called blockchain. But what can it do for me? What can it do for finance? What can it do for healthcare? Is what he is bothered about. Oh, there's a great technology called augmented reality. Fine, I'm happy. What can it do for finance? What can it do for travel industry? That's where the domain knowledge comes into picture. That's when you become a person who creates value. Right? So you should have some bit of a domain knowledge. And again, can you have all the domain knowledge? Obviously not. So you pick and choose. Maybe real estate, maybe travel industry, maybe healthcare, whatever it is. That's why it is secondary. So then you can go to the person on the real estate and say, travel industry and say, okay, there is something called augmented reality. I can build an application. Your users can use it to feel your property, whatever the property is, wherever they are. They don't have to visit physically, they can at least experience, then they can come. Then he is hooked. If you go and tell him, oh, there's an augmented reality, you can do this, he doesn't care about it. Right? So always, and this I have seen, people like me who are who've grown up very well in software industry, whenever a customer tells me, oh, I need a 4-inch hole, I say, like, I mean, how long the drill has to be? Should it be rotating clockwise or anti-clockwise? Should the socket be used only in the Europe or in India? None of those things matters, right? That's why you need to understand what the domain is. Now, these are all on one side. As I said, Scott Adams was talking about primary, secondary, and then public communication, right? Public speaking. So that's why structured thinking and structured communication matters a lot. This is one thing that I keep saying. A lot of people, not only developers, a lot of people fail, is that they can't think structurally. Because things are going to change. As I said, speed. Things are going to change tremendously fast. How are you able to meet that particular challenge? How are you able to face that particular challenge? Can you think structurally? Again, that itself could be a session. I write these things on my blog, jude.com. You can go and check. I write quite often there. But can you think structurally? And can you present it structurally? Because you're going and talking to a business domain owner, you can't be talking about Python one time, next minute you can't be talking about DevOps, all the rest of the stuff. He's going to lose interest and he's going to say, you might be the expert and you know much more than somebody else, but if I'm going to approach the problem structurally and speak structurally, he's going to listen to me rather than to you, right? So can you think structurally? Can you communicate structurally? Again, there are frameworks for this, but then can you use them? One of the framework for structured thinking is SODAS, situation, appraisal, options, advantage, disadvantage, and solution. And in a structured communication, we talk about, especially if it's a written communication, we talk about inverted pyramid. That's another framework that you can look up. Barbara Minto is the author who has written a book on that. There are a few other things also. You can look up all of those things. But then that's also important. As I said, if you have to the domain and the software, every company becomes a software company. You have to think structurally to understand that particular problem and able to communicate to them in that particular fashion that they will understand. So good luck to all of you. If you have any questions, let me know. Good luck to all of you. Thank you.